In this next video in our series, we turn our attention to how the planet Earth was formed, how life took hold and how oceans, lakes, rivers and canals were formed. The planet in early times was formed from dust that ringed the sun. Over a long time this stuff came together to form small rocks. This process was chaotic, and things collided and smashed into each other, and parts fell off making many blocks and things. This happened many times until a large snowball-like object came into being. This object was not that large, but because it was reasonably big, it attracted new rocks to fall towards it. Every now and again, large objects would crash onto the Earth, heating up the planet until it became hot. Also being larger, attracted the planetoid Earth to move closer to the Sun. This had the effect of boiling the rocks until it became a liquid. One day, the Earth was hit by another planetoid, and this moved us away from the Sun. The Earth started to cool right down, and it formed a crust. Then another large object smashed into the Earth, breaking off a large part, and this part started to orbit the Earth once every month or so. When that large object hit us, it left water ice on the surface, which melted to form ponds. The Earth gained mass through further impacts, until most of the space rocks had drifted away, and formed other planets and clouds. The Earth now had a ring of dust, and a moon. The ring of dust eventually impacted the moon, leaving large craters. Now the planet started to settle into the shape it is today. Its movement through space was unhindered by rocks, and the orbit stays constant. The Earth then cooled still further, and water vapor condensed into big oceans that covered the globe. The first life form was chaotically and mysteriously created in the warm waters near underwater volcanoes, where there was great amounts of minerals, and life was born, but the world was still a very young and violent, with nothing but the basic elements for food. Life struggled to take hold, and many changes took place. The diversity of life was created by chance alone. Governed by the conditions, new life got more complicated to be able to exist in this hostile environment. Objects the size of buses kept crashing into Earth, changing the landscape. The moon was ever moving closer to Earth, affecting the oceans. The volcanoes and the Earth's crust was being pushed and pulled, creating mountains that rose out of the sea. Over millions of years, the land grew larger, and creatures grew more complex, that one day, a life form crawled towards the sun and out of the water. The land was rich in elements, and the organism took hold. The land became rich with plants, and life in the sea was growing fast too. Now and again, small fish would get washed up onto the land and die there. This happened for many a year, until, through diversity and chaos, one fish survived the transition from water to land. With all the vegetation to sustain itself, it took advantage of this, and this sort of thing happened again until there was many life forms on land. After a good long time, chaotic events created multitudes of species to take advantage of larger sized vegetation. Then came more Earth's changes. The planet cooled and warmed, cooled again, followed by a warm period, and lots of other climatic conditions. These changes shaped the planet, and also the life on it too. Animals grew larger, until a large rock smashed into the Earth, upsetting the apple cart. This wiped out the larger animals, and only the smaller ones would survive. By eating the larger dead bodies, the larger animals' remains, and being able to find shelter in the Earth to keep warm. After the trees and plants grew back, they were no longer depressed, and started to grow bigger again. A bit later that year, an animal decided, in a chaotic way, that living in the trees was not that much fun anymore, and started to adapt. Even longer in time, This kind of thing happened a lot, until one day, there were groups of animals walking, upright, and eating magic mushrooms. This discovery borne out the invention of the wheel by rolling down a hill whilst high as a kite. The discovery was mind-altering because the invention of play and recreational drugs was ultimately the only way to see the usefulness of tools. The unfortunate side effect of this was the drugged-up animals killed and went on food raids of the neighbors. Still further in time, after interbreeding, the humanoid creature was capable of farming other creatures for food, instead of hunting them down. So now, they also invented more ways to get high and party. This went along like this until they invented the sun god after a bad drought, and everything went downhill from there. The next video looks into chaos of our biology and why we have things we don't need anymore.